Growing up, Jessica always had a way of making what was mine hers. When I was 8, she convinced our parents that my new bike would be better off with her because she was more responsible. At 12, she ended up with my beloved Nancy Drew collection because, according to her, she would appreciate them more. By 16, I had learned to keep anything important hidden away from my older sister's prying eyes. But how do you hide a dream? I'm Sarah Mitchell, 28 now, but this story starts 3 years ago, right after I graduated with an MBA. While most of my classmates were eager to jump into corporate jobs, I was sketching business plans in coffee shops, dreaming of something different. The idea came to me during my last year of grad school. I noticed how many professionals struggled to eat healthy with their demanding schedules. Meal prep services were either too expensive or impersonal, and the healthy delivery options weren't truly tailored to individual needs. That's when it hit me. What if there was a service that combined artificial intelligence and nutrition science to create personalized meal plans, delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to people's doors? I named it NutriTech. It was the fusion of technology and nutrition that would revolutionize how busy professionals approached eating. I spent months developing algorithms, designing meal plans, and cracking a detailed business plan. Every detail was accounted for, from the e-learning system to eco-friendly packaging. "It's brilliant, Sarah," my professor told me after reviewing my business plan. "With the right funding, this could take off. The market is ripe for something like this." I was on cloud 9. I refined my pitch, practiced endlessly, and felt ready to present to investors. But first, I wanted to share it with my family. That was my first mistake. It was at one of our monthly family dinners when I finally decided to tell them. Jessica had flown in from Chicago, where she worked as a marketing manager. In our parents' eyes, she was always the successful one, the one with the stable corporate job, the nice apartment, the respectable boyfriend. I was the dreamer, the one who needed to get her head out of the clouds, as Dad would put it. Mom had made her famous pot roast, and everyone seemed to be in a good mood. Perfect timing, I thought, to share my vision. I'd been working on something. I began pulling out my neatly prepared presentation folder. A business idea that I think could really work. "Not another one of your schemes," Dad sighed, but Mom shushed him. "Let her talk, Robert," she said, though her look made it clear she shared his doubts. Jessica sat across from me, her wine glass held delicately between perfectly manicured fingers, watching with an expression I now recognize as calculated curiosity as I explained the concept. "It's called NutriTech," I said, laying out my market. Research charts. It's a personalized meal planning and delivery service that uses AI to learn users' preferences and dietary needs. The algorithm creates tailored meal plans, and we deliver fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to their door. I went on about the technology, the gap in the market, the growth potential. As I spoke, I noticed something shift in Jessica's expression. The polite boredom was gone, replaced by something sharper. "The best part," I continued, "is that I've already developed the basic algorithm. I worked with a friend in computer science to create a prototype. All I need now is initial funding to launch a pilot program." "How much funding?" Dad asked, clearly skeptical. "Based on my projections, about $200,000 for the first year. That would cover technology development, initial marketing, and operating costs until we break even." Dad nearly choked on his wine. $200,000? Are you out of your mind? "It's actually quite reasonable for a tech startup," I explained. "And I've already had some interest from angel investors." "Interest isn't commitment," Jessica interrupted, her first words since I started talking. "Have any of them actually offered to invest?" "Not yet." "But?" "Then it's just another pipe dream," Dad concluded, returning to his pot roast. "Sarah, honey, why don't we focus on finding a real job? Jessica's company is always hiring and marketing." "This is a real job, Dad. This could be huge. The meal delivery market is projected to reach $200 billion by 2025, and with our unique AI approach." "I think it's interesting," Jessica said suddenly, interrupting me, and everyone at the table turned to her in surprise. She had never supported any of my ideas before. "The AI aspect is clever, very innovative." I should have seen the red flags then, but I was so starved for approval that I missed the predatory gleam in her eyes. Really? I asked, hope swelling in my chest. You think so? Absolutely, she smiled, reaching for my business plan. Mind if I take a look at the details? Maybe I can offer some marketing insights. Like a fool, I handed her everything: market research, financial projections, technical specs, even the algorithm prototype. She spent the rest of dinner poring over my materials, asking questions I now realized were aimed at gathering intel rather than offering support. The next few weeks were shockingly pleasant. Jessica called regularly, offering helpful suggestions, seeming genuinely interested in my success. She even introduced me to some of her business contacts, though none ever followed up on my pitches. Then came the day that changed everything. I was in my favorite coffee shop, revising my business plan when my phone started buzzing with notifications. Friends had tagged me in a press release. My heart dropped as I read the headline: Rising Star Executive Launches Revolutionary AI-Driven Meal Planning Service. The accompanying photo showed Jessica, smiling professionally in front of a sleek logo for TechBite, a personalized meal planning and delivery service using artificial intelligence to create customized meal plans for busy professionals. My business, my idea, my dream. But there she was, quoted in the article. I've always been passionate about combining technology with nutrition. TechBite represents months of careful planning and development. The worst part? The article mentioned they'd secured $500,000 in initial funding from our parents' retirement savings. My hands shook as I dialed Jessica's number. She picked up on the first ring, her voice cold and polished. I was wondering when you'd call, she said. How could you? I croaked. That's my business, my idea. Your idea, she laughed. Sarah, ideas are worthless without execution. You've been sitting on this for months, talking about it but not doing anything real. I saw an opportunity and took it. That's business. You stole my business plan, the algorithm, the strategy, everything. I adapted a concept, she corrected smoothly. And let's be honest, who's more qualified to run this? Me with years of corporate experience or you with your coffee shop dreams? I hung up and called our parents, thinking they'd see how wrong this was. I was wrong. Jessica came to us with a solid plan, Dad said. She has the experience, the connections. It just made sense to invest in someone who knows what they're doing. But it's my idea. I nearly screamed. She stole everything: the concept, the tech, the marketing strategy. Oh honey, Mom's voice was sympathetic but dismissive. You're just upset because Jessica is actually making your dream happen. You should be happy for her success. Happy? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She stole my entire business. That's enough, Dad snapped. Jessica has worked hard to get where she is. She knows how to run a business. You're just upset because she's doing what you couldn't. Stop being childish. That night, as I sat in my apartment, surrounded by the remnants of my dreams, market research, financial projections, my phone buzzed with congratulatory messages about Jessica's innovative new business venture. I watched through social media as she became the darling of the business scene. Young entrepreneur revolutionizes meal planning industry, read one headline. TechBite. The future of personalized nutrition, proclaimed another. My parents proudly share photos from a launch party, Mom holding onto Jessica's arm, Dad giving a speech about his brilliant daughter's vision. The same vision he dismissed as a pipe dream when it came from me. But as I sat there, something inside me shifted. The hurt turned into something harder, more determined. They thought I was just a dreamer. Fine. They thought Jessica was the only one who could succeed. I'd show them just how wrong they were. I opened my laptop and began to write, not another business plan, but something bigger. Something that would make Nutri-Tech look like a practice run. That night was the start of my real story. While Jessica rode high on stolen success, I was planting the seeds of something that would change everything. And 3 years later, when their house of cards crumbled, they'd learned exactly who they'd underestimated. But that's a story for later. First, let me tell you about what happened next. Because watching Jessica destroy my business while ruining our parents' future was just the beginning. The saying goes that success is the best revenge, but watching Jessica struggle with my stolen business gave me a type of satisfaction I hadn't anticipated. It wasn't something I could enjoy right away, though. The first few months were pure agony. Jessica's face was everywhere. Local business magazines hailed her innovative approach to meal planning, and she gave interviews about being a self-made entrepreneur. She spoke at women's business conferences, preaching about following your dreams. The irony would have been amusing if it hadn't been so painfully real. Did you see Jessica on the morning news? Mom would call, her voice brimming with pride. She's doing so well with TechBite. They already have over 1,000 subscribers. I'd mumble some non-committal response and end the call as quickly as possible. Each conversation was like a fresh cut to the wound. But while they were all celebrating Jessica's genius, I noticed something they didn't. Flaws in her empire. Jessica may have stolen my business plan, but she didn't understand the technology behind it. The AI algorithm I developed with my friend Dave wasn't just a simple recommendation tool. It was a complex system that required constant updating and refinement. Whispers started circulating through mutual friends. Complaints about meal recommendations that didn't make sense. Delivery mishaps. Technical glitches in the app. Jessica had launched with a bang, but the foundation was shaky. The algorithm suggested shellfish for a customer with a seafood allergy, Dave told me over coffee one day. He'd been approached by TechBite to fix their issues, but refused, remaining loyal to me. They're using a simplified version of our code, but they don't know how to maintain it. Meanwhile, I was busy with my own plans. The night Jessica launched TechBite, I'd started sketching out something bigger, something more comprehensive. If Jessica wanted to play in the tech space, I'd show her what real innovation looked like. I called it LifeSync, an entire digital ecosystem for personal wellness. Not just meal planning, but a platform that could track fitness, monitor mental health, and integrate advanced AI to optimize all aspects of well-being. TechBite would look like an abacus next to LifeSync's quantum computing. But this time, I was smarter. I registered patents for every component of the technology. I documented everything meticulously. And most importantly, I kept my mouth shut around my family. I took a job at a local tech startup to pay the bills, spending every free moment on LifeSync. My apartment became a fortress of whiteboards, sticky notes, and code. I reached out to my business school network, making connections without revealing too much. 6 months into Jessica's success, TechBite hit its first crisis. A group of customers had severe allergic reactions due to incorrect ingredient listings. The local news picked up the story. It's just growing pains, Dad said dismissively when I mentioned it during one of our monthly family dinners. Every new business has challenges. Jessica wasn't there that night. She'd been missing more and more family events, always citing her busy schedule. When she did attend, the confident smile from her press photos had been replaced by a tight, strained expression. The technical issues are minor, she snapped when anyone dared bring them up. We're scaling rapidly. These things happen. But I knew better. I had built that system. I knew exactly what would happen without proper maintenance. It was like watching someone crash my car in slow motion. 9 months in, the complaints snowballed. The Better Business Bureau was flooded with reports about incorrect orders, billing errors, and poor customer service. Jessica's perfect 5-star rating dropped to 2 stars. Maybe you could help your sister, Mom suggested during one of her calls. You know, with the technical stuff, families should stick together. I gritted my teeth. I don't think Jessica wants my help, Mom. Besides, I've got my own projects. Still with those piked dreams, she sighed. Honey, why can't you be more like your sister? She actually made something of herself. That conversation broke something inside me. I stopped attending family dinners. I stopped answering their calls. And I poured everything I had into LifeSync. A year after TechBite's launch, the first major investor pulled out. Others soon followed. The press turned from glowing praise to sharp criticism. TechBite, a cautionary tale in tech startup management, read one particularly scathing article. I wasn't there when it happened, but I heard about the family meeting through Dave. Jessica had called her parents to the TechBite office to discuss the financial situation. The business was hemorrhaging money. Technical issues, poor customer service, and bloated costs were sinking the ship. The expensive office space and over-the-top marketing campaigns had drained their resources. "We just need more investment," Jessica apparently insisted. "Another $300,000 would get us through this rough patch." Dad exploded. They'd already drained their entire retirement savings into TechBite. The house was mortgaged to cover operating costs. There was nothing left to invest. That's when the truth about Jessica's so-called successful management came out. She'd been hiding the company's struggles, feeding our parents doctored reports while the business was falling apart behind the scenes. My phone started buzzing. First Mom, then Dad, then Jessica herself. I let them all go to voicemail. "Sarah, honey, please call us back. We need to talk about some things." Mom's voice message was strained. "Look, I know we had our differences, but this is serious." Dad's message was gruff, anxious. "Sarah, I know I messed up, but I need your help. Please?" Jessica's voice trembled, sounding almost like she was crying. I listened to each message with an odd sense of detachment. A year ago, I would have rushed to help. Now? Now, I had other things to focus on. LifeSync was nearly ready for launch. I had secured meetings with real investors, venture capitalists who were interested in the technology, not just the story. My patents were approved. Everything was set. Then came the news that would rock our family to its core. TechBite was declaring bankruptcy. But the real bombshell was yet to draw. The truth about Jessica's business practices was about to be exposed, and it was far uglier than anyone could have imagined. The bankruptcy filing for TechBite hit the local news on a Tuesday morning, and it felt like the world was finally catching up to the truth. I was in my apartment, preparing for a crucial investor meeting for LifeSync when my phone buzzed relentlessly. Notifications flooded in, each one more damning than the last. TechBite files for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Customers left in limbo. Local tech startup spectacular fall from grace. TechBite closure leaves trail of debts and angry customers. But the article in the Business Journal, the detailed investigative piece, that was the real punch to the gut. Jessica hadn't just driven TechBite into the ground. She committed fraud. According to the investigation, Jessica had fabricated customer numbers to impress investors. She claimed to have over 10,000 active subscribers, but the real number was closer to 2,000. And those were rapidly dropping as service issues piled up. She falsified financial records to secure loans and had kept accepting new customer payments even when she knew they couldn't fulfill orders. Jessica wasn't the only one who'd caused damage. She'd roped in several of our parents' friends, promising them guaranteed returns on investments that never came. On top of that, she'd taken out high-interest loans against the company's dwindling assets, racking up over $2 million in debt. The scandal rocked the local business community. People who once saw Jessica as the shining example of entrepreneurial success now wanted criminal investigations. Former employees spoke out, sharing stories of bounced paychecks and unsafe working conditions. It felt like everything she had built was crumbling, and it was hard not to feel a strange satisfaction, even as I focus on LifeSync. Then came the knock on my door. At first, it was just the usual pounding, but I recognized my mother's frantic voice. "Sarah, open up. We know you're in there." I opened the door reluctantly. Mom and Dad stood there, disheveled, clearly exhausted. Dad's face looked years older, and Mom's hair was tangled and wild. "What do you want?" I asked, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. They barged past me into the apartment. Mom clutched her tablet, waving it in my face. "Have you seen this? They're saying Jessica might face criminal charges. We need your help." "My help?" I couldn't mask the incredulity in my voice. "Now you need my help." "This is serious, Sarah," Dad said, his voice strained. "The investigators are looking at everything. Jessica, she made some mistakes." "Mistakes?" I laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. "She stole my business, ruined your retirement, and committed fraud." "Those aren't mistakes, Dad. Those are crimes. She's your sister." Mom cried out, her voice cracking. "She's facing jail time. We could lose everything. Our house, our savings, everything. And what exactly do you expect me to do about it?" They exchanged a glance, and Dad hesitated. We thought maybe you could talk to the investigators. Explain that you were involved in the business planning. Take some responsibility. Get out, I said, my voice icy. Sarah, please. Jitao teet, I screamed, the rage boiling over. You want me to take the fall for her? After everything she did. After you supported her in stealing my business. We didn't know. Mom began. No, I cut her off. You didn't want to know. You didn't want to see it because it was Jessica, your perfect daughter. Well, guess what? She did plenty wrong. And now you're all going to have to deal with the consequences. They left, but it didn't end there. Jessica showed up next, looking nothing like the confident entrepreneur she once portrayed. Her designer clothes were wrinkled. Her makeup smudged. I can explain everything, she said, pushing past me into the apartment just like our parents had. Can you? I crossed my arms, my voice calm but sharp. Can you explain why you stole my business? Why you lied? Why you committed fraud? I didn't mean for any of this to happen. She collapsed onto the couch, her face buried in her hands. It just got away from me. The investors wanted bigger numbers. The customers wanted better service. Everyone just kept asking for more. And you couldn't deliver because you never understood how the business actually worked, I said, finishing the thought for her. You stole an idea without understanding its foundation. She lifted her tear-streaked face. I need your help, Sarah. The investigators are looking at wire fraud charges. If you could just tell them you were involved, say you approve things. Stop right there, I said, holding up my hand. I'm not going to perjure myself to save you. But I'm your sister. Her voice broke. Are you? I asked quietly. Because when you stole my business, took our parents' retirement savings, and lied and cheated your way through the last year, were you thinking about being my sister then? She left, sobbing, but I felt nothing. The time for sympathy was long past. In the weeks that followed, Jessica's downfall became public knowledge. She was formally charged with multiple counts of wire fraud and securities fraud. Our parents had to sell their house to pay back some of the investors they brought in. Dad took a job as a night security guard, and Mom started selling her jewelry to make ends meet. Meanwhile, Life Sync was moving forward. The investor meeting I'd been preparing for when my parents showed up? It went far better than I'd hoped. This is impressive, the lead investor said, flipping through my documentation. The integration of AI across multiple wellness verticals, the patent protection, the scalability. You've clearly thought this through. I've had some experience with what not to do, I replied with a small smile. They offered $5 million in series of funding, and the contract was signed the same week Jessica accepted a plea deal. LifeSync's launch couldn't have been more different from TechBytes. No flashy press releases, no morning show appearances. We started small, focused on getting the technology right, ensuring customer satisfaction before scaling up. 6 months in, we had a stable user base and glowing reviews. 9 months later, we were featured in Tech Monthly as the wellness platform to watch. A year in, we were profitable and expanding. Then the letters started coming. First from Mom, then Dad, and finally Jessica, writing from the minimum security prison where she was serving her 18-month sentence. They all said the same thing. We're so sorry. We should have believed in you. Can we talk about making things right? I kept the letters but didn't respond. I was too busy building something real, something that would last. And just as LifeSync was hitting its stride, as I was seeing the results of my hard work come to life, Jessica was released from prison, and she had nothing left to lose. The days following Jessica's intrusion were tense, like a calm before the inevitable storm. I doubled down on LifeSync's growth initiatives, diving into work to distract myself from the gnawing unease that she would try something else. My team noticed the shift in my focus, but no one dared question it. They were used to seeing me laser-focused, but this was different. Even I could feel it, an underlying sense of dread building with every passing day. And then it came. It started with a headline on a local news blog, "A Strange Sisters Clash Over Family Fallout. Is the wellness tech mogul hiding a dark past?" The article was filled with Jessica's carefully spun narrative. She painted herself as the misunderstood black sheep of the family who had made some poor choices, but was now trying to reconcile. She framed me as cold, unrelenting, and unwilling to forgive. She even hinted that LifeSync's success might not have been as clean as I'd let people to believe. It was a masterful smear job, vague enough to avoid outright defamation, but suggestive enough to stir controversy. By midday, it had been picked up by larger outlets, and my PR team was in a frenzy. "We need to issue a statement," my head of PR, Melissa, urged during an emergency meeting. "If we let this narrative take hold, it could damage the brand. People love a redemption story, and right now, Jessica's spinning herself into one while making you look like the villain." I clenched my fists under the table, my nails digging into my palms. "No statements," I said firmly. "We don't engage. This will blow over." "But Sarah?" "No," I cut her off. "The minute we respond, we validate her claims. Let her play her games. Our work speaks for itself." Melissa didn't look convinced, but she nodded. The team dispersed, leaving me alone in the conference room with my thoughts. Jessica had crossed a line, and she knew it. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about my company, my reputation, and the people who depended on me. I wasn't going to let her tear down what I'd built. But as the days passed, the smear campaign escalated. Jessica started appearing on podcasts and local TV shows, crying about how she only wanted to make amends. She subtly accused me of gatekeeping family resources, suggesting that I had the means to save our parents' house, but refused out of spite. The public began to take sides. My inbox filled with hate mail from strangers accusing me of abandoning my family, alongside messages of support from those who saw through Jessica's manipulations. Then came the bombshell. One morning, I walked into the office to find my legal team waiting for me. They handed me a cease and desist letter from Jessica's lawyer. She was claiming that elements of LifeSync's technology were based on her original concepts and demanding either compensation or a stake in the company. It was absurd, of course. Every piece of LifeSync's tech had been developed long after Jessica and I parted ways. But the timing was strategic. With the media already buzzing about our family drama, Jessica knew the lawsuit would add fuel to the fire. "Do we counterstew?" my lead counsel asked. "No," I said, my voice calm but icy. "Not yet. Let her dig her own grave." Instead, I quietly gathered every piece of evidence I had against Jessica, proof of her theft of my initial business idea, records of her fraudulent activities, and even screenshots of her emails begging me to lie to investigators during the tech fight collapse. I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to end this. But as I prepared my case, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived at my office, an actual handwritten letter, not the usual legal notice or media inquiry. It was from Mom. "Sarah, I know you don't want to hear from me, but please, I'm begging you to read this. Jessica is out of control, and we don't know what to do. She's not the same person anymore. The lies, the manipulations, it's worse than ever. Your father and I are at our wits' end. I know we failed you in so many ways. I know we chose sides we shouldn't have. But we're losing everything. Our home, our savings, our dignity. And now Jessica is dragging your name through the mud, and we can't stop her. Please, Sarah, I'm not asking you to forgive us. I'm asking you to save yourself. Do whatever you need to do to protect your company, your reputation, your future. Don't let her destroy you the way she destroyed us. Love, Mom." I stared at the letter for a long time, torn between anger and pity. My parents had made their choices, and they were paying the price. But Mom was right about one thing. I had to protect what I built. That afternoon, I instructed my legal team to file a countersuit against Jessica for defamation and harassment. I also authorized my PR team to release a detailed statement outlining the timeline of events, how Jessica had stolen my business idea, bankrupted our parents, and attempted to involve me in her fraudulent schemes. We didn't hold back. The backlash was swift. Jessica's supporters turned on her as the truth came out. Former tech by employees and investors came forward to corroborate my story. Even some of our parents' friends, who had lost money in Jessica's scams, gave interviews condemning her actions. Jessica tried to fight back, but the tide had turned. Her lawsuit was dismissed as frivolous, and my countersuit forced her into a settlement that barred her from making any further public statements about me or LifeSync. The noise finally died down, but the damage to my family was permanent. Months later, I received another letter from Mom. This one was shorter, just a few lines. "Sarah, you were right to cut us off. We made our choices and we're living with the consequences. I just hope that someday you can find it in your heart to forgive us. Not for our sake, but for yours. Love, Mom." I folded the letter and put it in a drawer with the others. Maybe one day I find that forgiveness. But not today. Today, I had a company to run. The email hit my inbox on a Thursday morning, forwarded by our lead investor, and I could feel the weight of it before I even opened it. The subject line read, "The truth about LifeSync's founder." The message was simple but damning. A mess. Mitchell stole the core technology for LifeSync from TechByte during its bankruptcy proceedings. I have proof that she accessed our servers and downloaded proprietary code before the company was liquidated. It was signed by Jessica Mitchell, former CEO of TechByte. I stared at my phone, absorbing the shock for only a moment. Jessica had done what I expected. She wasn't going to fade away quietly. No, she was going to fight. Fight dirty. "We need to respond right now," my PR director, Mark, urged during our emergency meeting. "Even baseless accusations like this can erode investor confidence and hurt our public image." But I wasn't worried. Not for a second. I had something Jessica didn't. The truth. I had documented everything. Every line of code. Every patent application. Every meeting and conversation. I had meticulously archived all of it, time-stamped and organized. But most importantly, I had something far stronger than her accusation. I had the original NutriTech files, the ones she'd stolen to build TechByte. Files that contained not just my code, but also the emails where she openly admitted to adapting my ideas. "Release everything," I said. My voice. I'm wavering. The NutriTech files. The emails. The proof of TechByte's fraudulent foundation. Let's show them who the real thief is. Within hours, the fallout was swift and overwhelming. Tech blogs ran stories exposing Jessica's smear attempt, while investors came out in full support of LifeSync, reaffirming their trust in me. The final nail in the coffin came when Dave, my former programming partner, released a statement detailing how Jessica had tried to hire him to replicate my code for TechByte. But the battle was far from over. That evening, as I was leaving the office, I noticed my parents standing by my car. Their presence sent a ripple of tension through me before I could even make sense of it. "How could you?" Mom cried, tears streaking down her face as she rushed toward me. "You exposed Jessica like that. She was just trying to make a fresh start." "By trying to ruin my company," I asked, my voice steady but sharp. "That's her fresh start. She's desperate." Dad's voice cracked with frustration. "We're losing everything, and you're just sitting in your office with your millions. Stop." I cut him off, my voice low but commanding. "Just stop. Jessica committed fraud, went to prison, and now she's trying to blackmail me. And you're still defending her." Mom's voice trembled as she whispered, "We're going to be homeless. The bank? They won't extend the loan. We have nowhere to go." I stood there, frozen for a moment, really seeing them for the first time in a long while. My father, once strong and self-assured, now a shell of himself, worn down by endless nights and anxiety. My mother, who had spent her life curating a perfect image, now stripped bare by the consequences of her choices. They had lost everything backing Jessica's lies, and still they were choosing her over me. I took a deep breath, then turned toward the car. "Get in, both of you. There's something you need to see." They followed, confusion evident in their eyes. 20 minutes later, we pulled up in front of a modest house nestled in a quiet neighborhood. Dad squinted as he asked, "What is this?" I handed him a key. "This is your new home, if you want it." Their expressions went from confusion to shock as I unlocked the door and led them inside. The place had been renovated, clean, comfortable, and ready for them to move into. "You bought us a house." Mom's voice barely rose above a whisper. "No," I corrected. "I bought a house for you. You'll live here, rent-free, as long as you need it. But there are conditions." I pulled out 3 documents and laid them on the kitchen table. "First, this is a rental agreement. You'll live here, but I own the property. Second, This is a contract stating that you will not, under any circumstances, support Jessica or give her money for any of her ventures. Third, this is a restraining order I'm filing against her. She will have no contact with LifeSync or any of its employees. Mom blinked, her face pale. But she's your sister, she murmured. No, I said firmly. She's someone who stole from me, tried to destroy everything I built, and would do it again if given the chance. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. They signed without another word. What else could they do? 2 weeks later, they moved into the house. Jessica, predictably, was furious. She tried everything, cried to our parents, threatened more legal action, and even showed up at my apartment drunk one night, yelling about family loyalty. But the restraining order held, and when she violated it multiple times, the police stepped in. It's been 6 months since that night. LifeSync has continued to soar, launching in 3 new countries, with our user base approaching 10 million. The wellness industry is taking notice of the revolution we're bringing to personal health and technology. My parents are adjusting to their new life. Dad found a better job, one that doesn't require the night shifts. Mom started volunteering at a local library. They're not happy about the rift with Jessica, but they respect the boundaries I've set. As for Jessica, last I heard, she'd moved to another state, trying yet again to reinvent herself. Part of me hopes she's truly changed this time, that she's learned her lesson. But I'm not counting on it. Me? I've learned a lot about family, trust, and the price of success. Sometimes the people who should support you the most are the ones who tear you down. Sometimes setting boundaries means being accused of selfishness. And sometimes the best revenge isn't success. It's the strength to say, no more. The other day, I found an old notebook from the new Tritech days, filled with sketches and ideas. I sat down with it, and for the first time, I realized something. Jessica didn't just steal my business idea. She stole my trust and family. But in doing so, she also gave me something I never could have gotten otherwise. The drive to build something bigger, better, and completely my own. LifeSync isn't just a successful company. It's proof that dreams don't die when they're stolen. They grow stronger, bigger, and more resilient. Just like the dreamers themselves.